2025 is the year that you really get honed in on your intuition. It really honed in on how God speaks to you. And he speaks to all of us in similar and yet different ways. And so I get intuitive hits differently from somebody else. And because it's different, but it's the same, it also feels natural to us in our body. And so we tend to dismiss it. Don't dismiss it. Well, Happy New Year, obedient rebel. Welcome to another episode of The Prosperity Approach with your obedient redheaded rebel host, Allyson Chavez. Thanks so much for being here. Hopefully you're out of the hangover for New Year. Not that you've been wasted, but you know, like how we've just been wasted from the last year. So hopefully it's been long enough that you're like, okay, we can kind of get back into the rhythm of things and life again. And, you know, life is very different. And last year was a rough year for a lot of people. And I don't want to dismiss that or discount that at all. In fact, shortly before the year ended, I ran across somebody had put something on X that said, "This year has felt like being awake during surgery." And I was like, I can relate to that. And I think there's a lot of people that can. But here we are in a brand new year. And New Year's are usually filled with hope. It feels like it's a clean slate. It feels like It just feels like, okay, everything is going to be different this year. And I think we say that every single year. I know I certainly have said, you know, things are going to be different. This is going to be my year. This year is my year. And there have actually been years where I have said that. I remember, this was a long time ago, 20 years ago, 21 years ago. My third child had just been born, and he was 7 weeks early, and I had gained a ton of weight with him, and it was water weight because I got preeclampsia and I was moving into HELP syndrome and all of that. So he had to come early, and I had felt like crap the whole year. And so I remember telling one of my friends, this is my year. I can feel it. Being 27 years old is my year. And it was because I started doing things differently. I started thinking things differently. I trained myself to stop eating junk food and to drink more water and to move more and like things like that. But generally speaking, from year to year, we say it's going to be different this year, but then we're not different. And so life really can't be different. It's going to be the same. It's going to be a very familiar vibration or experience, like, you know, when you feel like you're living one great big Groundhog Day. And I don't want 2025 to be like that for you. So I want to share with you some tips and some things that we need to rebel against, because after all, I am the obedient rebel, and we're going to obey the wisdom and the universal principles that actually work. And we're going to rebel against society's conditioning and our own programming and the boxes that we have been put in or that we put ourselves in. And this is a perfect time to burst out of that box. So I have to share a story with you first. I got scammed right before the year ended, December 30th, actually. I totally got scammed, but I caught it before any damage was done. But this was just really, really powerful for me in how far I have come in my own thinking, in standing in my own authority, in calling out bull crap when it's bull crap, without apology, without fear of hurting somebody's feelings, things like that. So let me give you the shakedown. I'm in my office, minding my own business, and the phone rings, and the caller ID says it's from my bank. And so I answer it because it doesn't say scam likely. It says it's from my bank. So I pick it up, and there's this guy on the other end who is from the fraud department, he says. And he wanted to know if in the past 10 minutes I had made a charge for $320 and change for something overseas. And I was like, no. And he was like, okay, well, we think your card has been compromised. And so we're here to protect you. You should have gotten a text from us. And I'm like, didn't get a text from you. So I was already on alert. And he also had an Indian accent. Now, you can call me whatever you want by me saying he had an Indian accent, but I have never spoken to anybody in customer service from my banking institution that has any sort of weird accent or like Middle East accent or Indian accent. All right. So take that for what it is. But I was suspicious, and rightly so. So he says, get out your card and I'm going to verify the first 6 numbers of your card. And I'm like, okay, because I don't know which card it is. So he reads me the numbers. Sure enough, that it's the same 6 numbers. So I verified it. Yep. And he's like, okay, so that's the card number. And then he said, we're going to cancel this card and then we'll ship another one out to you in 2 to 3 days. And I'm like, now that's suspicious as well, because it always takes like 5 to 10 business days to get here. He said, and here's a case number, okay? And I was like, okay, let's write down the case number. So here's the case number. F as in Frank, R is in red, D as in dog, which is fraud, and then the number 3825. Now, I have had fraud done against me, and so I've worked with the fraud department at my banking institution before, and I know that that's not the case number that they assign ever. It never starts with fraud. So I was like, okay, what's like, I knew I was onto them by then, but I still played along for just a minute. So he verifies my home address and my zip code, meaning he read it to me. And I said, yes, that's correct. And then he said, okay, now what we need from you is the last 8 numbers of your credit card or of your debit card so that we know, like, we can really make a stop to this and make sure that other purchases aren't going through. And in the meantime, I pulled up my banking. Nothing's going on in my account. Fraud has not alerted me on my text, no notifications at all. And I said, well, how about you tell me what those last 8 numbers are on my card, and we'll go from there. And he's like, ma'am, that's not how this works. You read us the numbers because we already have your card right here. And I'm like, fine, then read them to me and I'll let you know if it's right or not. So So he's talking very calmly and he's like, no, ma'am, this is what we need from you. And I was like, okay, this is absolute fraud. So I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to hang up and I'm going to call the fraud department back. And he said, ma'am, if you do that, you're going to see that it's the same customer service number that's on the back of your card. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And I'm going to go ahead and call it and ask for the fraud department. And I've got the case number, so we'll go from there. And he said, well, there is no fraud. Like, there's no such department or there's no such number. He said, like, there's no such number. And I was like, okay, yeah, we're done. Goodbye. And I hung up on them. And then, of course, I called my bank just to make sure everything was okay. And guess what? Nobody with an Indian accent answered customer service. And not that all Indians are involved in fraud, but there are enough of them that you can be suspicious. Like, let's call it what it is. Go ahead and call me racist. I care not. But I need to make you aware of how we get scammed. So I called the bank and they were like, no, there's nothing going on. Everything's locked down. But the first 6 numbers on like debit cards or credit cards are always the same depending on the banking institution. So they could have done a Google search or scammed somebody else. So they knew that those first 6 numbers would match my card because that's how, like, when you type in American Express, like you type in the first 4 numbers and boom, it automatically says it's American Express or Visa or whatever. It's because the first 6 numbers are assigned to certain institutions. That I did not know. And so I was on to them by the time he said, verify the last 8 numbers. Because I'm like, well, then you only need to know 2 numbers. And that'd be really fast for you to be able to like crack into my card and use my card. This is ridiculous. Okay, so let me tell you, and by the way, I was polite, but I called him out on it. And I'm like, this is, I'm done. Goodbye. Ma'am, don't blah, 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 goodbye. Trust your instincts, first of all. Stop letting society's conditioning tell you to be polite or believe people when your intuition is screaming at you or even just pinging like something's off here. I don't know what it is, but something's off here. Like, trust that and follow it. Especially as women, we have been taught to be polite, to be kind, to be nice. For me, my programming was literally don't hurt their feelings. Don't hurt their feelings. Words are like toothpaste. And once the words are out, and once the toothpaste is out, it's very, very difficult to get the toothpaste back in the tube. Now that's true. And words are also very important. So we don't want to speak without thinking. But what I'm talking about here is call the bullshit when you hear it and when you see it. And don't be afraid to call people out. This does not feel right to me. This does not seem right to me at all. So I'm just going to leave the situation. And you don't have to be snotty about it. But if you want to be snotty about it, go for it. These people are trying to defraud you, whether it's this guy from India who was trying to snag my banking information, whether it's somebody that is wanting to go on a date with you and something just feels off, whether somebody is selling you some sort of miracle whatever and it just doesn't feel like the right fit, tell them. And if they can continue to just push and push, well, then it can be clearly this is not aligned because no, let's not do that. All right. So follow your intuition. 2025 is the year. It's the year that you really get honed in on your intuition. It really honed in on how God speaks to you. And he speaks to all of us in similar and yet different ways. And so I get intuitive hits differently from somebody else. And because it's different, but it's the same, it also feels natural to us in our body. And so we tend to dismiss it. Don't dismiss it. Don't dismiss it. Now, here's the thing. We have been gaslit by authority figures and the government for decades. We've been lied to. We've been gaslit. We are under so much oppression with free speech, that right trying to be taken away from us. And, political correctness is a form of oppression. Don't say anything for fear you'll hurt somebody else's feelings. And I'm not, you know me. If you followed me at all, you know that I don't go out to purposely be an idiot or to be, a snot to people. And I think generally speaking, most of us are that way. But the time has come where enough is enough. And this is the year that we get to speak, and we get to speak the truth, and we get to speak our truth as well. So what does this mean? We have been taught that truth is relative. And some truths are relative. Some people believe that you have to work really, really hard to make a tiny bit of money. That's their truth. Other people believe you don't have to work hard at all to make a lot of money. And that's their truth. But your truth is your truth. But what truths have you decided to believe in? And let me substitute this word truth for I'm living my truth. Let's change out the word truth for decision. I'm living my decisions. We can also substitute that out for beliefs. I'm living my beliefs. And this is how life works for me. And beliefs are decisions of how things work for you. It's not decisions to do something, it's decisions about something. And so if this is really going to be your year, then you have this amazing opportunity to make some new decisions about how life works for you. If money is the root of all evil, then that's the decision you've made about money, but you really consciously want money as a 40, 50, 60-year-old, but your inner 4-year-old learned that money is the root of all evil. Your brain will not let you make money. It just will not, because it goes against that decision that you made, not even knowing that you made it when you were very little. So now you get to decide how life works for you. You get to decide if you want to continue to chase a paycheck or chase your passion, or if you're going to create and trust that God has your back? Are you going to follow your desires? Also knowing that being able to manifest your desires takes work. It takes mental work, it takes spiritual and emotional work, and it takes physical work as well. The greatest work in the world, but it's also the hardest work in the world because we're taught to be lazy. And we have to fight against the natural inclination to be lazy and to be a victim and to blame other people. And we live in this society that's filled with that. But is enough enough? Are you tired of being scammed by your brain and beliefs that are no longer working for you? I know we're tired of being scammed by the government. Clearly, the American people spoke about that. So are you done with the scam that your beliefs are telling you and the decisions that are making you feel limited and less than and not enough? And I can't step into my greatness because somebody else is going to get uncomfortable by that. Yes, they will. But so many others will be inspired by that. So this is what I would love for you to do. Besides sharing this episode with somebody that you think could use it. That's the most important thing, is getting this word out. Would love it if you liked and subscribed and notification bell and all the things. You know the drill with these podcasts. But most important to me is that I can touch somebody else's life through you that I don't know. And so please share this. But what I would love to hear or see, any of you watching on YouTube, or you can go over to YouTube, put in the comments section, what is one new decision you're going to make this year that could change everything? Maybe you're going to make a decision that you're enough no matter what happens. Maybe you're going to make a decision that you can trust your desires, and as you do your part, you trust that God will do his part. Maybe the new decision you're going to make is honest communication and vulnerability with your spouse, even if that means intense and uncomfortable conversations, which is exactly what that means, but it leads to greater intimacy than you can possibly understand right now or even imagine right now. So we've got scammers out there, but we've also got scammers in here in our mind. Call them out for the bullcrap. That is malarkey. That is baloney. But you can't just call it out. You need to hang up the phone on them and run something else. Do a different program. What I mean by that is make a different decision. I've actually decided that I can cash flow every part of my life. Have no idea how I'm going to do that. This is just for instance, but this was actually me a few years ago, and actually me and my business right now. Like, I'm going to be honest, 2024 was rough. I'm in a negative cash flow situation, but it's going to be fine because I've been in worse situations and God delivered me through them. And he also comforted me through them when I did not have this kind of mindset. And he will do even more with me because I'm even a more polished instrument in his hands and more in tune than I was even, 7 years ago. That was a totally different person. But if you're having a rough time with money, and I don't know anybody who isn't, it's okay. We're in the same boat, but this boat is not sinking. It's not sinking. It's taken on a little bit of water, and we have, we've been listing from side to side, but don't you ever for one moment decide that you're in a sinking boat, because you're not. You are the captain of your boat, and you get to decide, I cash flow everything in my life. I cash flow everything in my life or in my business. I don't know how. I just know that I do. What do I already cash flow? What do I already pay cash for, or I don't go into debt for? That's where it starts. So slam the door on the scammers, hang up the phone on the scammers, call out the stinking scammers in your brain, and then flip it. You got to flip the script. Flip the script on those internal scammers. Now, here's the thing. It's not easy to do on your own, especially because they're wily. Like, man, scammers are getting more and more sophisticated, and that same thing is happening in our brain. So if you're feeling like you could use some help with this, will you shoot me an email? Just shoot me an email, Allyson@AllysonChavez.com. It comes right to me. If you don't want to pull up your email and do all of that, just go to my website, AllysonChavez.com, and I can show you how to stop the scammers and how to rebel against the scammers and against, quote, polite society and rebelling against all of those things and obeying the things that actually work. And you can even, on my website, schedule a free Ascension Plan call with me. So if that's something that you feel a little bit pulled to, listen to it, follow it. That's your intuition. And again, please share this episode with someone. Listen to this over and over again if this is helpful to you. 2025 is our year. It is your year, but you have to decide it and then be the person who has the life you want. And I can show you how to do it. Until next time, remember, God loves you and prosperity becomes you, especially when you work with Him. Bye-bye.